take a few minutes to study the Old Grey Mare in our textbook on page 31. The main challenges come from the rhythm and the use of the eighth notes and being consistent on that counting. And of course, the use of accidentals that show us which notes are sharp, which notes are natural, and to put those two in combination with each other and read the music fluently. Let's get started. First of all, we notice we are in 4/4 time here, 4 beats to the measure, and we have one lone little eighth note with a flag, and so we know it's an incomplete measure. The rest of the notes here, if this is a half a beat, we can look to the last measure and notice an eighth rest with the similar little flag. There is a silent beat for a half a beat, and plus the 3 counts. So 3.5 plus the original half a beat gives us the 4. So once again, this is not a complete measure at all, but rather we will call it an upbeat, similar to the conductor going up with his baton and starting the orchestra. Now, we want to count simply and. This is the and of beat 4 before the bar line, and so we'll count and then we'll go into our quarter note counting. Actually, we will say 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and, because we anticipate seeing eighth notes in the measures that are coming up. So we must begin to say 1 and for every beat. This is the way the opening measures will sound with the rhythm. It will go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And I'm going to stop right there. We can see a repeat of this rhythm down here in the 5th measure, and it begins with the same upbeat and the same 4 quarter notes. And this would be also 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. If you put these notes together with the counting, we're going to have our thumb on G, which is here, and of course our right hand begins with our thumb on C, 3 of them. It goes up a step to D, up a step to E, and stops, and we can also strike the C chord underneath. Notice an absolute repetition exactly below. So here are the 2 hands from the beginning, starting with the upbeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and the same thing below. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and. So that gets us at least 2 measures into the piece, and notice the 8 measure total. Normally pieces have multiples of 4 measures, so there's balance and symmetry in the music. One phrase of 4 measures balances out the other phrase of 4 measures. Let's continue to look at the other phrases. So once we get into the text, ain't what she used to be, and notice how it's repeated 3 times, ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be. You will notice every time we have this phrase, we have the exact same rhythm. And so we're going to notice a quarter note, 2 pairs of eighth notes, and a quarter. And the same in the next measure. A repeat of this rhythm, and the same here. And only the 4th beat is split with the upbeat. So we expect to hear something like this for our rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and so forth. If you listen to the music with that kind of rhythm, it will sound like this on all the ain't what she used to be. Ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be, ain't what she used to be. So it's very, very repetitive. Now, let's look at our notes. We're going to start with an E, and we strike the E, and the first pair of eighth notes go E to down a step with a sharp, must be D sharp. Back to the E, now the D got naturaled. So we're going to pull finger 2 down onto the white key and continue to middle C. So this measure looks like this. E, E, D sharp, E, D natural, C. Then we go to the next measure. We notice they want finger 3 moving down a step to D. And we want the notes D, D again, down a half step, this time to C sharp, back to D, and we're going to move finger 2 down to C natural and continue down a step to B. So on both of these measures, our fingering should be 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. Try it again. 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So both pairs of eighth notes play on 3 and 2. It's just at the second pair of eighth note, you're going to slide finger 2 down and make sure you hit a natural. So far we have E, E, D sharp, slide 2 to D natural, and then move 3 to D, and repeat the same pattern of intervals. Slide to C natural, and the third group goes back to the first, E, E, D sharp, E, slide to D natural, C, and then of course our familiar upbeat 1, 1. So we have 3 measures in a row that follow the same rhythm and follow the same pattern of intervals. A starting note, which is repeated down a half step, back to the starting note, down a whole step, and continuing down a step. Anytime we have a little pattern like that, repeating a step higher or a step lower, we call that a sequence. Here's another typical sequence. What do you think of this from the music of Bach? Or something as simple as so a little pattern of notes that simply gets repeated steps higher or steps lower and creates a little chain of events with the notes and the same rhythms. That's what we have here in Old Grey Mare, a simple sequence that takes place 3 times in a row. All right, so together we're going to listen to Ain't What She Used to Be, but we're also going to accompany the sequence with a C chord, a change to a G7, and then back to a C. So we want to put the 2 hands together like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 3 to D, 1 and 2, and back to E and C chord. 3 and 4, 1, 1. And there you have it, class, so far. So the piece at this point is full of eighth notes and the sharps and the natural, and we just have a back and forth on the C chord and the G7. Now, here's the piece so far. See what you think. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and G7, 1 and 2 and back to C, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I'll stop there. The last 2 measures are simply rhythm that sounds 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and a rest. Let's look at that more closely. Here we have eighth notes on beat 1, and the sound should go something like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 is a rest. At least half of beat 4 is a rest. If we start on the notes D, and we have 3 Ds repeated, we go up a step, down, and return to C. Many long years ago will sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, and 4 is off on the rest. Now, because D is our melody note, they're going to give us a chord, the G7, that fits the missing note in the G7 chord, you'll see, is the D. We easily could put the note D into the G7. It would sound great, but we're not going to, because we've started with 3-note chords, not 4 notes. So the D, we can basically throw away and it doesn't hurt the sound of the chord. But knowing the D was there, doesn't that make sense to put that chord with the note D in the right hand? So that our melody notes and our chords fit together all the time. We want the melody note to find it somewhere in the chord. We know that those harmonies fit with the melody. Now, so we are going to hear that many long years. When we return to the note C at the end, well, guess what the best chord is going to be? You're right, a C chord, because the note C for the melody is also in the C chord. So once again, these two chords and this melody note fit like hand in glove. You always want to look for that for the best harmonizing or adding chords to melodies. They should share a common note somewhere in the chord with the melody. So our last two measures would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 is a rest. Well, I think we're ready to hear the entire Old Grey Mare together. And again, the secret is to count and watch out for your sharps and naturals, and then get the chord changes in as you can. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is off. And notice, class, because of the eighth notes and the upbeat, I'm counting all the time to keep myself right current with the rhythm and very stable with my pulse. So as you continue to work on your sharps and your naturals, and you have a good recognition of those, and you've got your counting and clapping going in your head and physically with your hands, you're going to just portray this Old Grey Mare as having more spirit than anyone would have thought. Good luck as you work on the Old Grey Mare.